Yo, what's up again there, guys? Brian here to do 3 Topics Gamer, and I'm here to do another one of my worst to best ranking videos. Now, recently they did announce, well, not necessarily announce, but they apparently showed off some footage of the next upcoming Indiana Jones film that will be coming out, I believe, either next year. And just to share my own personal thoughts, I've heard a lot of really negative things about this next film, and I hope these rumors are wrong, because if this film ends up doing a couple things that I heard that it was going to do, it could possibly end up being probably one of the worst films I've ever seen to send off an iconic character. And trust me, no one could question Harrison Ford's portrayal as Indiana Jones is iconic. I would easily say he's far more enjoyable to watch as Indiana Jones than he ever was as Han Solo, even though both those characters are iconic characters. So with the arrival of an upcoming Indiana Jones film, I thought it would just be nice to do my own personal ranking of the 4 current films that we have in the franchise. Now, remember, like always, this is my list, so please do not get too beat up if certain movies are in certain positions. However, I'm pretty sure my list is going to be a little bit controversial by the end, but heck, it's my list and I'm going to do things my way. So if you do happen to enjoy this little ranking list of mine, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to track me in all my future videos. And if you do happen to enjoy this video or have, any ideas for future rankings or reviews or reactions, make sure you share those ideas with me and everyone else in the comments down below as well. So, while wasting any more time, let's start off by ranking and my personal ranking of what I think is my least favorite entry in the Indiana Jones franchise. Taking the 4th spot, and my least favorite Indiana Jones film is not going to surprise anybody. In fact, I would be surprised if anyone didn't put this as 4th, but it has to go to the last Indiana Jones film in the form of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, a lot of people hate this film, and I just want to say I do not hate this film. I very much really enjoy it. This is the only Indiana Jones film I've ever actually seen in theaters, made even better by the fact that it was actually, this film came out the year I graduated from high school, and we were actually playing the Indiana Jones theme during graduation, so I kind of have a strong connection with this film. I thought that Harrison Ford did a great job playing as an older version of Indiana Jones' character, so it was nice seeing that he still had it. I think that the plot for the Crystal Skulls was actually pretty interesting, and I thought it absolutely fit the tone that Indiana Jones films typically tend to follow. Now, here's where things kind of get a little controversial. I will acknowledge that this film does have some key flaws. Spoiler alert, the whole nuke scene. I think that the nuke scene was absolutely beautiful to look at, but it definitely stepped its toe into the whole BS department in terms of how Indiana Jones could have survived that. I mean, he would have been killed. Having Shia LaBeouf play as his son was definitely a odd choice that, if done right, could have worked, but I don't hate the decision. I just don't think it really worked as well as some people would have hoped when they were making this film. Going back to using Nazis again. This got old very quickly. I was hoping we would get a different type of adversary, but no, we were going back to Nazis after all these years, which I was just kind of not too big of a fan of. And the biggest controversy that a lot of people hate this film for is the addition of the whole science fiction element. Now, I don't hate that idea as much as a lot of people, because that element only ever pops up literally in the last like 10 minutes. But up until that point, the film had felt pretty action adventure-ish, and it worked just fine with me. I definitely thought it had a number of iconic scenes. I thought performances across the board were fine. Visually, it looked good. Some of the CGI hasn't aged all that well, and there are definitely some dumb scenes. But overall, this is certainly a Indiana Jones film that I think is, without question, enjoyable. Is it amazing as, say, the first 3? Not as much, but I would still consider this to be a great film and something that I've seen several times. And heck, when it ever comes up, I usually would turn to it and watch it and have a good time with it. But that doesn't stop it from being my least favorite entry in the franchise, which is why it takes the 4th spot on my list. Taking the number 3 spot on my list is going to have to go to the very first Indiana Jones film in the form of Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is the one that started it all. I think that this really did set the tone. This is the film that I think most, not just Indiana Jones films, but I think adventure films are compared to. You really are going to be compared to this film. I thought that Harrison's performance as Indiana Jones was, across the board awesome and incredible, which I would say is consistent throughout the entire franchise. I thought the villains were generic, but what do you expect? I thought the adventure aspect was definitely there. It definitely had a number of great action scenes. I thought it was filmed absolutely beautifully. And I thought that the climax was pretty effective and quite graphic, as I'm sure some of you already know. If I had any real main flaws with this film, I just think that it's a little too predictable in some instances. It kind of has something. It has a similar issue that I see a lot in like the Uncharted games, which that too is very much kind of like inspired by Indiana Jones, and so were like some of the later Tomb Raider games. In the form of Indiana Jones ends up doing all of this work, and then the Nazis kind of show up and just take over, and that happens just too many times throughout this film, and it gets kind of annoying. But other than that, this is still an absolutely fantastic film, a must-watch for anyone who's just a fan of just action adventure films in general, and a great start to an amazing franchise. But heck, it's got to take the number 3 spot on my list. Now, once I reveal number 2, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of shocked people seeing this video. But number 2 on my list is going to have to go to The Last Crusade. This was the ending of the first primary trilogy of Indiana Jones films, and this one pretty much has Indiana Jones having to find his father, who got kidnapped by the Nazis, and they are looking for the Holy Grail. I think the strongest aspect of this film is also probably one of the issues I have with the film. I thought that Harrison Ford and Sean Connery had absolutely amazing chemistry as actors. My only issue that I have with this film is, for some reason, I just don't buy them as father and son. Simply because, as a fan of the series, I know how old Harrison Ford and Sean Connery were when this film was made, and therefore, it always takes me out whenever I watch this film. It's like, I'm not necessarily buying them as father and son, but that doesn't stop this film from being amazing. Trust me, I would even say the action and the pace of this film is definitely better than Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think that the climax is certainly one of the stronger ones in the series. Not the strongest in my opinion, but definitely stronger than Crystal Skulls and Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I just think that the villains are just weak. I mean, I think that's just kind of consistent when we go to Nazis, is that they've never had a strong antagonist when it came to the Nazi characters. I just thought they were just so one-dimensional and not very memorable. I mean, I don't even remember who the antagonist... I mean, I remember his face, I just don't remember his name. And if I can't remember your name, you don't really seem all that important. But again, this, just like Raiders of the Lost Ark, is still an amazing film and a must-watch to anyone who's just a fan of action-adventure films in general, but it's going to have to take the number 2 spot on my list. Okay, so by process of elimination, there's only one film left, and this is where the controversy is going to start, because I have heard nothing but negative things about this film for years. But without question, my favorite entry in the Indiana Jones franchise has to go to Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. I have never heard anyone have anything positive to say about this film, and that pisses me off, because this film is absolutely incredible, and it is the only one that really stands out apart from the rest of the pack. This film is without question the darkest in tone. I think it has the most graphic scenes, it has the most memorable characters, it has some of the most memorable lines. This is the one that I am personally the most attached about. And here is the number 1 reason I love this film more than any other Indiana Jones film. And it's a fact that not a single person I've ever spoken to has ever brought up. Temple of Doom is the only Indiana Jones film that requires Indiana Jones to fix the problem. Allow me to explain. I must be the only person in the history of this fandom that has acknowledged this. But Temple of Doom actually needs Indiana Jones to solve the problem. Let's go down the list. So, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Let's say the Nazis get the Ark. Let's say they leave Indiana Jones alone. They go through all the little puzzles. They manage to get the Ark. They open it, and what's going to happen? Well, they're just going to be melted, and they're all dead. Therefore, the problem solves itself without needing Indiana Jones. So, let's go to Last Crusade. Let's say they leave the Joneses alone. Let's say they get Senior Jones's journal. Let's say that they actually find the little temple in Jordan. Chances are they're never going to get through the traps. And even if they get through the traps, they're going to have to find the Grail, which is going to be very unlikely. But let's say that they find the Grail. You can't leave with it. The knight said you could not cross the seal with the grail, as the consequences of immortality is that you cannot leave that place. So you be stuck there. Therefore, the problem, again, solves itself. Now, let's go to Crystal Skulls. Let's say they leave Indiana Jones alone. Let's say that they get the skull. They go to that little temple area. They place the skull on that little statue, and it turns out to be the skull of an extraterrestrial. What happened to the main villain? Oh, that's right, she got her brain melted out. So, in 3 of the 4 films, even without Indiana Jones needing to do anything, the problems solve itself. This is the only one that requires Indiana Jones to actually go out of his way to save the situation. Because, and this wasn't even something he was looking for. It was just something he kind of walked into, and he went out of his way to want to help this village because they were starving and their children had been taken. So he went out of his way to help this village to fix this problem. And on top of that, I actually think that Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom probably has my favorite sidekick in the form of Short Round, who very much can handle himself. I mean, this is a kid that has some great lines. I thought his performance was amazing. And I will say this probably has some of the creepiest scenery I've ever seen. I mean, the whole bug room thing. I mean, as someone who has a massive fear of bugs, Willie handled that situation better than I ever would have. I wouldn't have even been able to step in there. So the fact that she took care of that was just inspiring to me. I thought the whole ripping of the heart scene was graphic. I had never seen what a real human heart it looked like, and that looked pretty real to me. Also, Indiana Jones gets kind of possessed in this film and actually needs someone to save him. And I thought that the minecart scene was absolutely incredible. It reminded me of a roller coaster, which is great because my favorite ride at Disneyland is actually the Indiana Jones ride. And I really thought that the last climax of the scene on the bridge was just iconic. This movie is just, I've seen this movie more times than any other Indiana Jones. I probably watched Temple of Doom more times than the other 3 films combined. And it is the only one that stands out. We're not dealing with Nazis. It's incredibly graphic. Its tone is dark. It has a great cast of characters around it, and Indiana Jones is actually necessary for the plot. And I'm just pissed off that people hate this film and don't recognize that fact. Now, if you guys don't like it, that's perfectly fine, but that is never going to change my mind as for why Temple of Doom is, will be, and will always remain my favorite Indiana Jones film of all time. Unless the 5th one changes my mind, which is highly unlikely. So, that is my ranking of the primary 4 Indiana Jones film series and the male films in the series. If you could do your own ranking of these 4 films, how would you rank them? Share your list with me and everyone else in the comments down below. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you all next time.